Welcome to Networking Unleashed Building Profitable Connections, the show where connection turns into momentum. I'm Michael Foreman, and today's episode is for every solopreneur who's tired of feeling like networking only works if you're everywhere, talking nonstop, and working the room like a politician. My guest proves something powerful. Real relationships don't come from being the loudest voice. They come from three things done well: service, personal attention, and reputation. We're talking about how to build strong professional ties without living at events, how small personal touches open big doors, what it really means to be known for showing up the right way, not the noisy way. So, if you want results from your network without turning into someone you're not, you're in the right place. And listen, I would love to introduce Allan to the podcast. He's got an incredible background. And so, Allan, welcome to the podcast. And why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got here?
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to speak with you and to be in front of your audience. Yeah, I'm Alan. I'm thousands of miles away, actually from Asia and the Philippines. And I got started into solopreneurship. Basically, I'm a big believer in education. For us, like our biggest export is actually our talent, our manpower. And we get these opportunities through education, to our ability to speak English, to our skills, and I believe that with knowledge comes independence, power, and upside potential. So I started off really as I studied accountancy. I'm a CPA by training, but I graduated around the time when Robert Kiyosaki had this book like Rich Dad Poor Dad. It made me think of how I would like to pursue my career. So I was on the path of being an accountant. Started the franchise business at an early age, got overwhelmed doing both things. I eventually worked in a bank while running the franchise business, got me a bit overwhelmed. And I got confused because employment didn't work for me. Entrepreneurship, the easy kind, the franchise kind, didn't work for me. So I felt like I was becoming an educated bum. Like both avenues aren't working for me. And that's when I explored, that was around the time, early 2010s, where the internet business was starting to boom. And that's when I dipped my toes into it. So started off as an affiliate marketer using emails to sell products. And emails seemed to be a good fit for me because as an accountant, even among accountants, I'm somebody who works silently in a corner. And email is my way to talk to a lot of people without being with them, so to speak.
Right,
And
right.
that's right. That's when I was able to sell my first affiliate product, a digital product, an ebook, and made my first $8 commission. That was January 2013, an $8 commission. I couldn't forget that. And that told me that, hey, you can make money educating others. You can make money just by being yourself, and you can do so while at home. And that started my journey into selling digital products over the years. And now I help people start these one-person digital products, digital product business, sharing their expertise.
Right, good. All right. Thank you for that background. I mean, that's really an incredible background showing where you came from just as a single little entity and how you flourished into what you are today. So, on that note, I am going to ask you a few questions. Many people think networking means showing up everywhere and talking the loudest. Why is that idea so misleading, especially for solopreneurs?
I believe, especially with solopreneurs, like we're not big brands. A lot of it is rests on our shoulders. And but the advantage that we have is we can create that genuine connection, right? And for me, it's not about being loudest or even being near. One of the ways that I network is really by being of service. For example, what I'm part of a Facebook group, and of these Facebook groups mentioned that, hey, I love you guys to network. So leave in the comments what you do, and people will see you and reach out to you. But That group has over 400 comments. I think over 600 comments. So nobody's gonna go through everything. So what I did was I took a screenshot of all the comments, plugged them in AI, and asked it to categorize folks in parenting, folks in planting, folks in gardening, so on and so forth. And I shared it in the group as well. And I did it for myself, for me to find people I would like to connect with. But hey, since I have this, shared it in the group as well. And people started commenting, hey, please add me to the list. Then folks that I wanted to connect with, I added them. They added me back because they saw me as somebody who added value in the community without me being noisy. It was just being of service. And those are the opportunities that I think are in line with who I am, being of service rather than being loud. And that is, I think, people can talk a lot, right? Anybody can claim something. But if you can show up with action, with service first, that would make you stand out. And those are some of the ways that I think action can speak louder when you don't want to be loud, to be noisy.
Actually, within the networking world, there's a certain thing that you have to follow. I've learned over 35 years of sales what you and I base my whole business around that. And I'll tell you that once you walk into that networking event or meeting or something else like that, you go in what's called a servant's heart. You go in looking to give, not receive. And if you look to give, it takes all that pressure off your shoulders. And wait, I can enjoy myself. I can have a good time and I can help somebody to boot. So that's a great way. That's great philosophy. I believe in that wholeheartedly. And you're right on track. You teach that service comes first, which is a big thing. What does service actually look like in a professional relationship when it's done correctly?
Just like with sales, just with parenting, with relationships, it's really understanding what you can give to the other side or what they want in particular. Because perhaps we can give so much. For example, if somebody, I remember this one, I had this guest in my community and he's very well off, right? But I understand that he's really, so what we do typically when we have guests is you'd send them a simple gift, right? As a token of appreciation. But this person is based in the US, so it's pretty far. But I also know that he's a big advocate of dog shelter. So there's this one dog shelter that he always supports, he volunteers at. So as a thank you, we surprise him by showing him a donation that we made on his behalf for the dog shelter that he loves. And I know he's very well off. He doesn't really need anything, but when his face lit up, like that created a moment for them. And for me, that is something that I would always be. I'm very wary of. What would this person need? So, for example, with to get noticed, sometimes I know, Michael, you do also have courses you teach, right? And as educators, we love it when we get feedback from our students. And I know that as well of my mentors. And if I want to connect with them, one of the things I would love to do is just voluntarily give them a testimonial or r- write a case study that they could use. And typically, like mentors have systems to get people to submit those feedback. So for them to get something voluntarily, that would like give they would love to give you attention. So it's understanding what the other party would need and being able to serve that. And it's not even a one-to-one, exchange. Like the ask could be a year down the road. We really never know because we're not giving these with the intention of having a date, but really just giving it as part of our process and looking at it more as farming, as planting, rather than as hunting.
That's always the best way to go is to be a farmer, not a hunter.
Right.
But one thing I've recently began teaching my clients or my students, or I run a networking group, weekly networking group, and everybody's a problem solver. What problem
Mm.
do you have that I can solve? That's great, but that's only the first half of what you should be looking at. You should be looking at where are they going? right? So if you solve that problem, then what? Then where are they going? And that's where you want to meet them. You don't want to just solve their problem and say, oh, they want to say thank you very much. But you want to see where they're going and meet them there, and you'll get a lot more out of it.
Wonderful.
Okay. Okay. So personalization sounds simple, yet most people skip it. What small personal touch makes the biggest difference in building trust?
That's wonderful. That's a great question. Michael, I've been looking at my purchases, right? Like my own behavior and people around me. And I've noticed a bit of a pattern. It's like when people discover, it's like an influencer or a guru or a mentor, they tend to do some background research, right? And I notice this about myself as well. And the first rabbit hole that I get into are videos. It seems like there's some, with all the AI, with information, everything is gettable. But when we see people, we hear them, just like with you and your podcast, right? When people hear your cadence, that what you stand for, how you deliver things, those matter. Like the same content delivered by two different people, it will attract different types of folks as well. Right? For me, knowing that, I try to include videos. For example, when somebody becomes a client of mine, before, when the internet wasn't as fast as it was now, I would give them a phone call just to welcome them personally. Now I would use tools like Bonjoro, or even just use a Zoom call. I would film a Zoom clip, just send them a link to it, just to welcome them personally. Right? So I think those small touches matter. From where I am, Christmas is super big. So I would also invest in small gifts for them, just to let them know that, hey, I cherish what you do. And I think that's also the advantage now with the time of AI, where things are commoditized. Like those relationships are things that we can double down. And those are experiences, right? I think right now with AI getting bigger and networking, there's also an increased value in terms of relationships and experience. And those are the fundamentals of life, really. And I think I like to double down on things that don't change, right? With the world that ever changing. And I'm happy to say that I've had clients, like even before pandemic, that have stuck with me through different waves of changes, right? And funny enough, like a couple of days ago, I just had coffee with some of my longest term clients. And those are the things that they mentioned, like the reliability, the honesty, and it's funny enough, it's not being noisy, but being remembered still. So that's the type of business that they want, and that's the type of business that I run.
That's incredible. I use the pandemic, you brought up the pandemic. I use the pandemic as a line in the sand. Before the pandemic, networkers, it used to be transactional. And they used to say, okay, you have a widget, I have $3, I'll give you that, you give me that, and everything is fine. It's done. But ever since the pandemic, networking has really been relational and it's more geared towards relationships. So I would go to a networking event, networking meeting or something. I was in a mortgage business and I used to do networking and come back with a shoebox filled with business cards and say, look how good I did. When in reality, I didn't do well at all. But
Mm.
now I say, okay, when you go, get 15 cards max, right? Because there's a whole series that you have to, when you go up, you talk to them, know them, like them, trust them. They'll do, if they know you, like you, trust you, they'll do business with you. So
Right.
you have to go through all that and everything. But if you have only 15 cards, it means that you spoke with them, that you actually had a
Mm.
discussion with them. And I have a whole system for follow up and everything and what you write on the back of their business card. But it's a whole thing. But it's so relationship oriented that now that you almost have to be that way for you to get ahead.
And one of the things that we value, so I call my community effortless earners, because our main philosophy is the business should support life rather than the other way around. And one of the things that I like to focus on are not really volume of transactions, but LTV, lifetime value. But LTV can have a negative connotation where it's like squeezing every penny out of a person, right? But for me, I like LTV because it challenges me to be better. Because people only stay with you, repurchase, and renew if they got value from what they bought from you before. So it challenged me to over deliver on their first purchase, on their first experience with me. And I feel that's more challenging than hooking somebody on a $7 low ticket offer on Facebook. It's one thing to do that, it's another to make them stay. And that forces me to level up, to improve my quality, really look at them as people, right? Because it's easy to look at transactions as numbers, humans as numbers, but if the your KPI is making them stay, you look at them, okay, what are they going through and how can I help them out? Maybe it's in terms of deals, in terms of terms, in terms of long-term discounts. It makes me care more for people I'm with. And by extension, that not just broadens my network, but it deepens it as well.
You have to realize that even though we're on Zoom and you're in the Philippines and I'm here, you're still a person behind the camera. So if
Right.
I treat you like a person, like I'm talking to you right next to me, and I create that relationship, you'll remember that relationship a whole lot more. Right?
100%.
Okay, so you talk about being a poster boy. What does that really mean in the context of reputation and visibility?
As being a poster boy in particular, I'll circle back to what I said earlier about being the best student for the mentor. So I have this one student. His name is Jonathan, and he would always do all his tasks well. And I would interview him as testimonial. Then we had this small circle, right? And when I spoke with other like courses he enrolled in, I know like the mentors, right? He would always be the star student in all those programs as well. And he would always be the case study. That's why everyone notices him too, because they know that this person is serious. It's not just he buys a lot of stuff from them, but he implements them, he makes them look good. And I was thinking, hey, of course, I'm a student of somebody else too. If I can be of service to them, maybe as a case study, right? I'll be able to get into their radar, maybe build a relationship with them, and who knows, we can help each other out. That actually happened as well when I was on a group coaching call and my mentor was looking at using AI to create content. So this was last year. And I shared him, hey, I did a workshop. I gave you a copy. Were you able to see it? Then he said, okay, I messed up. I got your message, didn't see it. Would you mind sharing it now? Right? So I shared it in front of the group call, like with other business owners. And ultimately, I got invited to do a formal training in his community and got me exposure. So it's really just it's an extension of being of service, but in a very particular avenue. So whenever we enroll a drop in the bucket, for example, of a course. But if somebody volunteers a case study, gives you a good review, that automatically shoots you up in their radar. And that's where it's easier when you reach out, it's easier to get a response.
It's so true and funny. You said you wrote an article about it. I write an article 3 times a week for 2 different publications. And it's all about networking, all about AI introduced into networking.
Mm.
And by doing so, somebody in Las Vegas noticed me and I'm working with them. So
Wonderful.
it just depends on how you do it. Do it, you don't have to go over and above yourself. You don't have to speak loudly. Just do your work, do it calmly, and you'll be noticed. If you do your work well enough, then people will take notice.
That's right.
Okay. If someone or for someone who dislikes big events or crowded rooms, what's a smarter way to build real professional relationships? And this, I'm sure, is more towards introverts rather than extroverts?
You know what? That's a great question. As we speak now, I'll actually be doing my first class of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tomorrow night. And one of my big decisions there was, okay, it's one thing to attend a seminar, but with Jiu-Jitsu, I'm really gonna grapple with a stranger. And that was even a consideration for you because, ooh, that's too much for me. But it's funny because, like, for me with introverts, for me, I could only share from my experience that one of the things that I do is I look out for summits, so virtual summits where, yes, it's an event, but it's virtual. It's still private, still a one-on-one call. People will get contact there. But the magic is, of course, we could build lists there. People can watch our session during a virtual summit and sign up to our list. But to take it a step further, one thing I don't think a lot of people do is, hey, you can reach out to fellow summit speakers, right? Because it doesn't end there. Like you already have something in common, right? You can reach out to them. You can ask the host to introduce you guys, right? So that's one way to instantly network because in some ways there's a kinship already because you both spoke at the summit. You're also vetted by the host, right? And for an introvert, that's easier in the sense that I don't have to prove myself because we're on even playing field, right? The host already vetted us. So it gives you an in, right? Secondly, one thing that you can do as well, if you also have extra funds for advertising, if somebody you spoke at a summit, that summit typically has a lot of fresh new leads. You can reach out to the host and maybe ask them if, hey, can I buy a solo ad? Can I pay you and you promote my newsletter or my lead magnet or whatever? And that's also another way. Of course, there's transaction involved. You can swap solo ads. That would be fine as well. But that's another way to get eyes to what you do through an endorsement, which is an indirect form of networking. It's not the traditional, we're all here all at the same time. But you have to understand that, hey, people are just arrived in this person's list. They're fresh. They're excited. This might be a good time to put my name in front of them. And typically, summits would accept sponsorship because during summits, they are actually selling sponsorship packages. So if you offer, hey, can I pay you X amount for you to promote my email list, then that's an introvert's paradise. A way to network with an in and a way to network without having to talk to a lot of people through an endorsement.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I put on business shows, business expos, and I'm having one in March. And what you're talking about with the sponsorships, I'm getting all these requests of exactly what you're talking about. And mine is an in-person expo. That's really not part of it. But I see exactly what you're talking about because I'm getting all the questions about it now. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't pertain to my expo, but I'm going to keep all this in the back of my head
Right.
because it may come out later on. Okay. Where do solopreneurs waste the most energy in networking and what should they focus on instead?
It's a wonderful question. I would say, looking at I was just checking our activities and the leads that they generated. The best return for our time, I would say, are doing guest presentations for paid communities. You can get maybe not the volume, but the quality that you get are much higher. They stay in your list longer and they tend to buy more. So if you get that opportunity, right, and that you don't necessarily get to pay to play, those are things that you build through network. Because when I got those opportunities, it's through knowing the mentor for a long time. That's why I got invited to speak. So if you, it's funny, we can tie all these together. So if you're part of a course, then you use the poster boy approach to get noticed, right? And you will be in their radar once they do like guest speakers, you'll be part of that lineup, right? That's one opportunity that I don't think a lot of people are taking advantage of. Looking at just merely the networking events, it's great. to attend those, I think follow-ups is an important next thing, because it's not just enough that you meet them, right? Because there's that attrition, right? Among all these people I met, maybe what, 10% would actually follow up. That's instant attention for you, right?
High.
And
That's a high number.
it's a high
That's a
number.
yeah, it's a high number because people follow most networking events, the people who follow up on those events is about 2%. 2% of the
2%.
people do it properly.
Right.
Yes. So when you said
Right.
10 or 15, I'm like, no, that's way high.
Gotcha. So that even presents an even bigger opportunity, right?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And I think, yeah, it's not really the volume as well. It's really the follow-up right after. And that's where it will lead to opportunities. And one more thing, it's really looking at the timeline as well. If you're rushing things, like people can feel that. If you're in here, if you really look at the other person as a valuable person rather than just a transaction, it's hard to put into words, but what you say, the way you say it, the cadence when you say it, it's different, right? It's just changing the
Absolutely.
horizon of the relationship will shift the energy.
It's not what you have to sell or do or something else, but it's how you act, how you dress, how you speak, it's all your body language. Everything is part of the situation. You can have two people selling the same thing. One person is relaxed and calm and talking to you, and another person is a little nervous, but he's talking at you, and he's going to say the next thing that he's trying to think of instead of listening to you and responding to what you're saying. Yeah, so it's very different, but it's the same. Okay, what does meaningful follow up look like when you want to stand out without sounding pushy or rehearsed?
So it can be in a few ways. So in terms of, for example, sales transaction, for me, I don't like, well, at least the way we do it is I don't instruct my community to use words like to circle back or following up on this. So this in term context of a sale, I would rather have, hey, here's a deadline. And of course, this stems from the belief that your service, your offer will genuinely help the other person. So I would like, since there's a deadline, when I follow up, it's really more of I'm looking out for you. Hey, this is going to end soon. I don't want you to miss it. It ends in 2 days. Right? Shall we move forward? Do you have any questions? That way, one, it comes from a position of power as well. Because when you say circle, I'm circling back, I'm following up, it's like you need something from them and it can distort the balance of power. For me, I don't want to feel that like I'm chasing them because also for me, it also turns off the buyer, right? So I would love to come from strength and confidence because they will feel that energy that we have confidence in our offer and thereby they will have confidence that we can deliver that. So that's one meaningful way to follow up in terms of a sales conversation. Now, in terms of networking, for me, the way I do it, it's not super systematic, but I would like to check in at random times from them. I'm a big fan of Zoom coffee chats, the same way I do in real life. One of my criteria for having clients is I would only like to work with clients that I would love to hang out, have a coffee with. And that extends to online as well. So I'd like to hang out with folks like I could have a Zoom conversation with. So those are ways that I tend to help out. I tend to have meaningful follow-ups and just keeping them in mind. So there are some Facebook groups where, hey, I need this person, a host, right, or a trainer. Then I would just tag them there. Once I tag them, I'll take a screenshot. I'll send it to the person I tagged. And hey, I'm not sure if you're part of this group, but I tag you here. Yada, yada, yada. So those are things that I wouldn't even say they are follow-ups, but it's really keeping them in mind and being of service as well. And this is when I would do this even I was part of a business networking group before. Even when I left that group, I kept them in mind. I knew what their business was. I still did that. So that shows them that it's not transactional, and I could feel that they're not transactional with me as well. So that's how I put meaning into follow-ups. That puts you in a position of strength, not weakness, when you're following up.
That's great. And for you to remain in that position of strength instead of weakness, instead of looking for, oh, please, I'm looking for your money, you're in a position of power. So I understand that completely. Okay. How does consistency beat charisma when it comes to building a strong professional circle?
That's a wonderful question. I think I remember this one friend. He mentioned to me that, so this friend is a little more well off, right? And there's this one friend his neighbor who borrowed money from him. Him knowing that this friend won't ever be able to repay him, he still lent the money. He actually gave the money to him. And his reasoning was, yes, this guy may not ever pay me back, but he's always there, whether in my ups or in my downs. He's not just there because I'm doing well now. He's always been there. So to your point about consistency and charisma, it's really about that's why we are, I'm sure it's for yourself as well, Michael. Like we all keep our inner circle, the people that we truly trust in our lives, because especially before we achieve anything in life, they were there, right? And it's also hard to find professional relationships, right? As adults. So I think that consistency over the years, and I would imagine like when we attend networking events and see the same people from 5 years ago, there's that kinship that we feel for them, right? That, hey, it's been a long while. Although we're not family, we don't see each other every day. Like, how have you been? There's that, there's something about seeing each other for years through time that builds that bond. And of course, consistency doesn't just mean showing up, because if you can show up and you're annoying every year, like,
Still
so
annoying.
yeah, they'd rather not see you there. They hope you're not consistent. But it's about being consistently who you are and not changing whether you're big time now or you're struggling. And I think that's true not just in business, but in life as well. Being able to, it's seeing beyond business, but seeing the person as who he is. Right. And there's an appreciation, especially with business, that some business fold, right? And consistency also shows discipline, right? It also shows, hey, this person can survive. This person went through some difficulties and still here. So there are some messages that consistency communicate without being loud about it. It's not just they're always here, but being here also means every year there's reasons not to be here. So it shows character and strength.
It does. And being consistent is so important. And again, I'm coming from a networking world, and consistency, if you're consistent and people can rely on you, being consistent, saying, oh, I know Allan's always going to be there. And I can always trust that I can always ask Allan anything or ask him for a favor or something. He'll always be there. But if you came up and you had charisma high there, and you just have the charisma of having the short term relationship,
Right.
I would take the consistency over that anytime.
100%.
Anytime. Yeah. What's one behavior that quietly builds influence over time, even when no one is watching?
That's great. It ties back to what we said about consistency. I think it ties back with consistency in a way where if you don't see the numbers, but you're sticking to something, it shows that you have conviction to a cause, right? So, for example, if you're putting out videos and maybe you're not hitting the numbers that you're getting, but you committed to do 100 videos first before I stop doing something, right? And people can see that. And one of those 100 videos would hit, for example, and you look like an overnight success. So, well, but the silent trait there is just being at it consistently because you have a bigger vision for what you do. So for us, it's, for example, helping folks like build that business around their lives. So that's why if you notice, like behind, of course, for the audio listeners, behind me is a calendar for the whole year. And I already highlighted there like birthdays, special occasions, right? Because I wanted to fill that in first, and my business will fit around that, right? And I think those are small convictions that when applied to business, there's a reason, for example, where I go quiet in my business is because I value personal time. And I communicate that through my audience. And it's not just another piece of content, it's anchored in conviction. So I think for a lot of folks, one of the things that we do, I help clients out with is like world building, like building what are your convictions, what do you believe in the world. Then that's also how you run your business, how you communicate that, right? And that's something that when we see business online, we copy and paste tactics and strategies, right? But we don't know how they anchor their truth, their virtues, their values, right? Because that shapes how they run their business. If you just copy them, you're not you're just a version of them. But if you study what really do I want, how do I want to show up for my clients? For example, we're speaking here, it's almost midnight on my end. But for me, it's important that I show up for this because one, I believe my message should not be just contained in my locality. Second, also want to show for my community that, hey, we are also citizens of the world, right? That it is something that our message can also be seen not just locally, but worldwide. And those are very important for me, right? To show my audience, even if, say, they don't necessarily bring in the numbers, for example, just the fact that I'm doing it, it's important for me, then numbers would come afterwards. But somebody looking at it outside may just look at it as a strategy. And I feel that communicating that conviction, the reason you're doing stuff, and if it's anchored in a bigger truth, I think that would help with how people perceive you, how you're seen as a personal brand, and would add depth to your decisions, whether you go with a trend or not, right? They see that people respect people with their original thought, not just following a trend. So I feel that's the quiet thing that not a lot of people notice when it comes to strategies where everyone copies everyone else. So anchoring your business, your strategy in your own decisions is very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it is. Okay, so let's bring this podcast full circle. And if a solopreneur wants stronger partnerships this year, what single habit should they start today?
Wonderful. For me, it's important to understand, especially as solopreneurs, I'm thinking, of course, there's limited time, there's limited energy, just like anyone, but more so when you don't have somebody to pass this to. I believe understanding, being really clear on who you want to serve, right? It's really important because once you understand who you want to serve, then next is you'll know who, what communities, what brands have these folks. So I grew up in a traditional business where we sell wholesale product, not retail. So the wholesale thinking has been ingrained in me. So if, like, for example, they're women, married women in their 40s, then they follow, say, a certain brand, a brand like Women's Journal, for example. Okay, so maybe I could reach out to these folks, be of value to them, or maybe pay for an ad to reach them, right? That would be, I'll get them wholesale, right? So that's one way I would look at it, right? So find like 100 communities like this. If you nail down 5%, get a partnership with five of them, then 5 times if they have 500 people in their community, right? So that's a lot of people right away, right? And you don't have to go retail necessarily, right? Or you don't have to go advertising right away. So those are opportunities that I would look at and look basically look wholesale. And once you do that, keep doing it, like consistency. And if you can, use AI, use GPT to even make it faster. So that way you get revenue if you want to invest in advertising, other platforms. Whenever you generate money, more opportunities line up for you. So yeah, try to look at it wholesale and you'll be surprised with the results that you get, even at a low conversion rate.
That's great. Allan, this was a wonderful podcast. I'm so thankful that you took the time to come on. If somebody wanted to get hold of you to either hire you or pick your brain or anything, what's the best way for them to get hold of you?
Right. Thank you very much for you can reach on I'm also on LinkedIn, so you can find me at Allan Ngo. I also have a daily newsletter where I share these insights that we talked about. So it's digitalsolopreneur.com/Forman. So easy to remember it. So yeah, I send daily insights about this kind of business and I respond to all the replies. So if you get an email from me there, you want to reach out to me, just reply to my newsletter and I'll definitely see your message.
It's great. Thank you. That's what a smart connection sounds like. Not louder, not busier, just better. When you lead with service, people remember you. When you add personal care, people trust you. When your reputation speaks for you, doors open before you knock. Take one idea from today and use it in your next message, meeting, or follow up. Watch how different responses feel when you focus shifts from being seen to being valuable. If this episode helped you rethink how networking really works, pass it along to another solopreneur who's building something special. And make sure you follow Networking Unleashed, building profitable connections, so you never miss a conversation that helps you grow real relationships. I'm Michael Foreman. And remember, you don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be the most remembered one. Hit subscribe, hit follow, hit everything you can. Follow me, follow Allan. Allan, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for coming on to my podcast.
Thank you, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Well, hold on, folks. Don't go anywhere. Let's hear from our sponsors. David Neal, co founder, Revved Up Kids. Revved Up Kids is on a mission to protect children and teens from sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking. They provide prevention training programs for children, teens, and adults. To learn more, go to revvedupkids.org. Henry Kaplan, Century 21. When it comes to making the biggest financial decision of your life, leave it in the hands of a proven professional, Henry Kaplan. Henry is a global real estate agent with Century 21, celebrating his 41st year in business. No matter where you're moving, Henry has the right connections for you. You can contact Henry at 561 427 4888. A huge thank you to our guest for sharing such incredible insights today. And of course, a big shout out to you, our amazing listeners, for tuning in and spending your time with us. If you're interested in my digital courses, being coached, or having me come and talk to your company, just go to Michael and fill out the request form. Remember, networking isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. So take what you've learned today, get out there, and make some meaningful connections. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little networking inspiration. Let's keep the conversation going. You can find me on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, or my website, foreman.com/podcasts.